Let's move over to the wide receivers here. Some wide receiver start-sit decisions that a lot of fantasy managers are facing here in Week 9. And real quickly, before we get into some of the names that are on our list, I want to talk about my guy, Travis Fulgum. He is on a bye week right now, but if you have Fulgum on your roster, start him every single week. He is an auto start. He's a wide receiver 1. He is the fantasy wide receiver 1 since Week 4 when he started.
Insane.
Came out of absolute nowhere. He's the James Robinson of the wide receiver position, just an undrafted free agent that has become a big-time fantasy producer this season. They have a really, really soft schedule, the Eagles do, for the rest of the year. Only other tough matchup is Green Bay, with matchups against Dallas, Washington, Cleveland coming up here. So I'm loving Travis Fulgham right now. If you have him, keep plugging him back in. But let's talk about the guy that is probably the headliner on most shows, most fantasy content right now. And it's a question that's been brought up a lot. I mean, do you have the balls to start Antonio Brown against New Orleans in his first game as a Buccaneer?
Well, if Chris Godwin is out, I do. And, as of today, we're recording on what day? What day is it? It's Wednesday. I saw that Chris Godwin was a full participant in their walkthrough. He has that broken finger, but I think he's, making some hitting the jugs and things like that, seeing what that finger can tolerate. So it's just going to come down to, can Chris Godwin physically catch a football or not? By Sunday, he wants to play. So if Chris Godwin, catching a football with one hand or with a cast on is probably pretty tough. Maybe not for, some of these OBJ catches, but they probably wouldn't recommend it. But Steph, if Godwin is in the game, I'm going to definitely wait and see what you have with Antonio Brown with that offense coming out at full throttle with Evans, Godwin, AB, Gronk, and the running backs. If Godwin's out, I'd rather wait and see with AB, but I'm willing to play him. If Godwin's out of this game, I think they're going to try to force feed Antonio Brown the ball, get him going. He might not play a high snap percentage, but I think the snaps he plays are going to be skewed towards plays designed for Antonio Brown. They're going to want to see what they have. They're going to want to get him going, really get him up to game speed, in-game shape. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 5, 6, 7 targets, especially maybe a couple in the red zone. Last year with the New England Patriots, Antonio Brown only played a handful of snaps, got like 6 or 7 targets, but most of them were in the red zone. They wanted to use him when it mattered because they trust him down in that area. Tom Brady loves him. So if Godwin's out, I'm starting AB, and if Godwin's in, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this wide receiver core shakes out in terms of where the volume is going. I do feel like Antonio Brown is just going to take over that Scotty Miller role.
Talk about an upgrade.
Yeah, I just had a Freudian slip right there calling him Slotty Miller, but it's a great nickname for him. But to your point, when Antonio Brown was with the Patriots for that one game last year, this is the second game of the season against Miami. They were a really easy matchup at the time, but AB saw 8 targets, caught 4 of them for 56 yards and a touchdown, a 16-point fantasy outing. I think that's completely in his range of outcomes here. But with Godwin out, I think that's when he really becomes an exciting start. If not, I'm willing to bench him. Might be something where Godwin is a game-time decision, so you're going to have to pay attention to that one. Hopefully we can hop on here and do a live stream Sunday morning. Again, guys, hit us with your start-sit questions down in the comments below. We'll try to get to every single one of those. I think we're batting at like 99% response rate on start-sit questions. Missed a few here or there on waiver days and stuff like that, but continue to hit us up with those. A like and a sub is always appreciated as well. Now let's talk about the guy's like the boom bust god right now, Mike Williams with this LA Chargers team. We've seen a 27-point outing, then a 1-point outing, and then a 21-point outing in his last 3 games that he's played. They did have the bye week in there. But against Las Vegas, are you plugging Mike Williams in as a flex spot, maybe a wide receiver 2? Herbert has got that offense moving.
Oh, yeah. I'm starting him as a flex this week. You look at this matchup against Vegas. It's a good matchup. Vegas has been in a ton of shootouts this season. They're one of the few teams that is scoring close to 30 points a game and giving up close to 30 points a game this season. Mike Williams, as long as he's tied to Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor's not back there at quarterback, I'm rolling him out there in good matchups because, like you said, Justin Herbert has been absolutely slinging the rock. It can't all go to Keenan Allen. I know he had that disappointing outing 2 weeks ago with the 1 point, but if I'm going to put my money on Mike Williams having a boom or a bust this week, I'm putting my chips on the boom side. But when you start him, if he's your wide receiver 2 or your flex, you always just have to know what that downside is. But look at who you're going against. If you need a big performance, if you're in a pinch, start Mike Williams, and he could return on one of these 20-point games. I think, as long as he is seeing the targets that he's seeing with Justin Herbert, 8 targets in each of the 2 boom games he's had in the past 3 weeks, he's going to pay off because Mike Williams is a huge yards per catch guy. Those targets are going to be extremely high value. In that, 27-point outing, he had 21.8 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns. This past week, 19.8 yards per catch and a touchdown. So when Herbert's throwing him the ball, you're probably going to get a lot of value out of those targets compared to someone who's getting a lot of his targets closer to the line of scrimmage, like a Juju Smith-Schuster or like a Jarvis Landry. So I'm all in on starting Mike Williams this week and kind of rolling the dice and hoping for the best.
Nice. I got to start sit question involving Mike Williams and another guy we need to talk about here, Brandin Cooks against Jacksonville. Before we get into how we're feeling about Brandin Cooks, would you rather start Cooks or Mike Williams?
Ooh, I think I'd still rather start Cooks. That's a close one for me. There's the only reason I might actually go Mike Williams is because I think it's going to be a competitive game. I just look at Brandin Cooks against Jacksonville with Jake Luton at quarterback for Jacksonville. I don't know how many points the Texans are necessarily going to need to score to win this game. Jacksonville can't stop the run either. So if the Texans jump up early, they could be kind of milking that clock for the second half. So you know what? I'm actually going to flip. I'm going to go with Mike Williams. I think in these matchups, I'd go with Mike Williams against the Raiders over Brandin Cooks against Jacksonville. That could burn me, but both of them being boom bust guys, you just kind of have to go with the best matchup and the one that makes sense. So I'll take the Mike Williams side here.
I could see it going either way. These guys are like neck and neck, just like high-end wide receiver 3s and low-end wide receiver 2s. But Brandin Cooks here, he's had some ups and some downs. He gave you a 0-point outing. Luckily, that was with Bill O'Brien. And since Bill O'Brien's been kicked out of Houston, it's been 30 points, 21 points, 13 fantasy points, and that 13 was against Green Bay. That was pretty much just in garbage time because the Packers went up early. But against Jacksonville, you talked about the game script already a little bit. I think I'm willing to put Brandin Cooks out there. He's a flex name that we could see. And we heard Will Fuller, the trade rumors coming up to the wire with the trade deadline just happening on Tuesday. I was kind of hoping as a Brandin Cooks investor that Will Fuller was going to get moved so Cooks would take over as the one in this offense. But since Bill O'Brien's been gone, Cooks has been a startable option, and so I'm willing to plug him right back in with that trend remaining the same.
Steph, next name on our list here, it's Corey Davis, and it doesn't sound great, but I think Corey Davis, I can't believe I'm about to say this, is entering into like must-start territory, which feels unbelievable. But as a wide receiver 3 or maybe not must start, but maybe like as a consistent wide receiver 3 flex play with some upside, it doesn't feel good. But you look at the production from Corey Davis this season, and it's hard to say no. Are you starting Corey Davis this week?
He's got Chicago, which is one of the better secondaries in the league. That does have me a little bit concerned, but I do think Corey Davis is a flex guy. He's the guy that you can plug him in. Now, I don't like the matchup enough to where if I have Mike Williams, if I have Brandin Cooks, I'd rather play them over Corey Davis. If we look at Corey Davis's production so far this year, he has scored 3 touchdowns on 6 games. He did miss 2 games with injury, but from a fantasy points per game perspective, he's a wide receiver 16 on the year.
Exactly.
And some of that is changing with the changes in this Titans offense. We know Corey Davis is in a contract year. He needs the ball out. He needs to show some production to get that bag. And we've seen a shift in the way Tennessee's running this offense. It's not just run the ball 30 times a game with Derrick Henry. We've seen Ryan Tannehill, both for fantasy and for regular, real life football, be able to produce, and the passing volume has increased with him. And so you see that with A.J. Brown. We see that with Jonnu Smith, who a lot of people think is the tight end 5 right now, and that extends all the way to Corey Davis as well. Again, he's a wide receiver 3. I'm bumping him a step down, again, because of that tough matchup, but I think I am willing to start him, and he's a guy that I want to have stashed. The other part of this, though, is the schedule. Chicago, and then Indianapolis, Baltimore, Indianapolis again. So I really don't want to start Davis in any situation unless it's in the fantasy playoffs where weeks 13, 14, 15, 16, he has Cleveland, Jacksonville, Detroit, and Green Bay.
Yeah, that is brutal, but the reason I say he's entering that, maybe not must start, but must flex territory is exactly what you said. From a points per game perspective this year, he's averaging more fantasy points per game than Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Robbie Anderson, who's been a breakout, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Mike Evans. I don't even need to go any further. but he is putting up points on a week in, week out basis. No, I don't trust that moving forward on a small sample size, but it's kind of like what we said with Chase Claypool and even with what you said with Travis Fulgham when he started his breakout. It's one of those things where he's had a couple big games. You see these breakout guys, you don't know if you can trust them. Sometimes you just got to ride that wave, man. You just got to stay in the flames. And with Corey Davis, I feel like it's a situation where you just have to keep starting him, close your eyes, and hope for the best. And it's like you have to start him until he proves you otherwise. So for me, if I have Corey Davis, I'm flexing him until he gives me a reason to put him back on my bench. And if that happens, we'll adjust expectations. But right now he's hot, and the Titans' offense is hot. So I'm going to start Corey Davis.
All right, a couple more to talk about here real quickly. Denzel Mims against New England. Not no, but hell no. Horrible matchup, horrible offense. I'm not doing it. There's no upside here. Should be a low-scoring game. Hopefully a get-right game for the Patriots. You're starting all your Steelers wide receivers, Deontay, Claypool, Juju. I think are all startable wide receiver twos or better this week against the Dallas Cowboys. And the other side of that,
one of them will burn you, but you have to play that game of Russian roulette. One of them's going to suck. It happens every week. But if you've come this far, you know you're going to keep playing the game. So good luck.
And on the other side of the ball in that Steelers-Cowboys game, are you willing to start any Cowboys receivers with the battle going on between –
Not with –
who is it now? It's not Ben DiNucci. It's –
Garrett Gilbert or Cooper Rush.
I'm taking Cooper Rush because he has the cooler name, but that means I'm sitting all my Cowboys wide receivers here.
Dude, I'm taking Garrett Gilbert because he came from – I can't remember if it was the XFL or the AA or the American Football League or the AAF, I think it was called. I can't remember which one, but he was like balling in that league. So I'm like, hey, who knows? Maybe this is the resurgence he needed to get this opportunity. But welcome to a matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers where you're probably going to get sacked like 12 times in this game. So it might not matter. Whoever starts is probably going to get knocked out by halftime and the other guy's going to finish. So you're not starting any Cowboys receiver against the Steelers. When Andy Dalton comes back, I think some of those guys will get a little bit more interesting, which I never thought I would say, but leave them on your bench for now.